everybody. First off, most of their material is based on, a large portion of academia, a lot of the academia that is kind of dated at this point in time. Actually, probably a large portion of the material that academia puts out there as real time curriculum is probably dated. Like philosophies that were, never really panned out. A lot of them have been debunked. A lot of the material that they try to go ahead and rely on has largely been, exposed as being not as credible as they claim that it is whenever they go out here and make these ridiculous memes. So ultimately, the first reason why the left can't meme is because most of their memes are, really at the end of the day, they're kind of like self-reflection, but it's pure conjecture. It's based on their personal opinions. You know what I'm saying? It's based on from their own personal perspective. And there's nothing wrong with making a meme based on your own personal perspective if it's understood universally. You know what I'm saying? If it's a marginalized issue that you have that only a small marginalized portion of people can understand it, well, this is going to be really, really hard for it to go viral. You know what I'm saying? Um, some of those like include basically your political ideology. Now, whenever you look at mud communism shit, in that's basically a really small portion of the country that really support communism. There's really not that much of a larger portion of the country that supports socialism. And whenever you go into those socialist countries, even fewer people support socialism. So you're talking about a marginalized group who've never experienced socialism that advocate for socialism and make it sound like it's some sort of common sense when they don't even understand the academics of socialism, as it's not taught to them correctly in these institutions. So, inherently, it's not going to go ahead and facilitate. To make a meme, there has to be some ironic truth. You have to have some sort of experience. It's like the Carl memes. It's about as basic as you can get it, where you see a, soldier making some sort of random mistake and somebody says, "Damn it, Carl," because everybody's known a Carl that was ever in the military. It's a pretty large group. People can understand it. It's pretty easy. Whenever you look at a lot of the right memes, whenever you look at the people that are independent or people that are, more capitalistic, first off, you're going to have more diversity there. And, for, a capitalistic cause than you will a socialist cause. There's just going to be more diversity there. People are going to be able to understand it. And so whenever people are making fun of the ridiculous shit that people say in the media, basically these academical experts, whenever they're trying to sit there and derive some sort of panic, everybody can see how the media tends to manipulate. That's universal. A lot more people are going to be able to understand it. This is why the right can meme. And basically, I won't say the right. Anybody who's not left can meme. Is because it is more universal. It's like a joke that is on the left, but they're not in on. Everybody else understands it, but the left. And this is basically what the internet is, for the most part. The organic internet. I'm not talking about, the Silicon Valleys up here running these. They'll never understand their suits. You know what I'm saying? They're, supposedly in it for the money, but I think that they're more in it for control right now. But they don't understand that, they'll never understand the joke because they're not in the joke. You know what I'm saying? They don't understand how out of touch they are with everyday people who would just rather go ahead, do their 9 to 5, be able to come home and, maybe even get a higher percentage of their paycheck without you taking so much of it and redistributing this wealth. A large people are not a big fan of that, because that's money that we worked for. And then you want to go ahead and take, say, anywhere from 12 to 22, in some cases 36% of that income that these people didn't, and redistribute it to them in some form or fashion. And so this is where we run into the problem, is that, for the most part, the left feel like, oh, well, this is just a double standard. It's not a double standard. You just don't understand that a large portion of your philosophies are not coherent. They're not coherent. They're marginalized. They're actually radicalized. So when you take in consideration that the internet, the YouTubes, your Facebook, your Twitters, the popularity of these social media platforms is because it gave the independents a platform to go ahead and compete. You cannot claim to be the counterculture and be in charge of the culture at the same time. The culture is influenced mainly out of Hollywood, which is left leaning, pretty much pushing communist agenda rhetoric, and out of DC, which is the same thing, left leaning, pushing communist leaning rhetoric out there on these platforms. And so you cannot then come and say that communism is somehow the counterculture. Your Saul Alinsky-esque, Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama type philosophies. You can't say that these are countercultures whenever you've hijacked the culture, and everybody that is pushing back against it on the internet, they're the counterculture. So I think to a degree, especially under like Obama, the left wanted to go ahead and give everybody on the left, or at that point in time, everybody in academia, all these college millennials and whatnot, the illusion that they were the counterculture, that mug communism, this was a communism revolution and whatnot, but they had already hijacked said culture, and they've actually had control of that culture for years. Like I said, DC has never went anything but Democrat. If you want to talk about the definition of bigotry, it's not accepting any other, position or philosophy, or not being, receptive to anybody else's position. And DC has, ever since they've had an electoral vote since 1961, has never went for the Republicans or any other political party for that matter. They've always, so that's the definition of bigotry right there. That is absolutely stone cold the definition of bigotry. But they'll sit there and point their fingers at me and call me a bigot, which, ultimately doesn't care. And you look at California, and back in the 80s, they were pretty moderate at one point in time, actually probably more right-leaning back in the 80s and the early 90s, whenever they've had a bigger economy and they were having this success where they were able to establish a Silicon Valley, to ultimately going to the extreme far left, to where they're like, predominantly blue. And so now we look at the internet now, and it's pretty much controlled by a more, what you would say, communist sympathizers. And so this is where you get all these regulations. This is why you can't get honest dialect on social media anymore. At one point in time, it was a great place to go ahead and do investigations here on like Google and, YouTube, and, you could look up stuff on Facebook. Somebody be sharing their opinions, getting out some information. Now it's almost impossible to do any of that stuff on Google and these platforms because of censorship. Mainly this is because of Obama and whatnot. So I mean, ultimately they just can't really compete in the market of free ideas. They never could. Communists can't compete in a market of free ideas. It's just, you want to talk about that, something that's impractical. It's communists surviving in an open market. That would never happen. It'll never happen. But this is why leftist and the leftist content creators have no real success on this platform. This is why, you look at TYT and various other left-leaning, like Sam Cedar and Secular Talks and all these other that have no issues with the platform because the platform is catered to them. This is why they can't get any real influence, any organic traffic. This is why Steven Crowder's platform grows pretty quick, and um, this is exactly why Joe Rogan's platform grows pretty quick. You know, um, and this is ultimately why they have to go ahead and attack the independents. Scott, I'm not going to be on here very long. I'm just here to do a quick video. This is kind of like one of those short one-offs. Probably won't be here much longer than I've already been. I'm just going over why the left can't meme, pretty much. And so, when you look at the leftist material, we can tell already that it's there to serve an agenda. It's the State Department will never be able to meme. That'll never happen. They're out of touch. They just don't, they don't have to work the day-to-day life. They don't have to go through the personal struggles that all of us have to go through. And the elite, the higher ups, they don't care. They don't honestly give a shit. I guess junior level, the more, I guess what you would say, the more the lower echelon of those fraternities that are in the State Department and in California that do this, they just at this point they just don't understand, and they can't wrap their mind around it. That a majority of Americans are not into being censored and all this other stuff. They feel like they should be entitled to the platform because they feel like they're more educated, but they have less life experience. You know what I'm saying? Um, um, but with that being said, it's just that's the issue that we're having right now in this country. It's basically the left controlling pretty much all perspectives of social media. And this is like I said, you post something there that's satire, or it has that bit of ironic truth that can't be allowed. Much like because it combats their it combats their agendas and whatnot. And this is how you end up getting the 48-hour bans like I just got on Facebook. This is how you get your strikes on Instagram. And so, yeah, it is. And so, yeah, 2 days I've already gotten 2 strikes on 2 of my accounts, and I'm surprised I haven't gotten one on Twitter. But Elon is buying Twitter, so there's still hope maybe that the privatization of Twitter can at least offer some sort of semblance of less censorship than say a platform like YouTube or Facebook or any of these other platforms that censor us every day. Will the Republicans still win the midterms? Yeah, there's no doubt that they'll win the midterms. And if the Democrats don't do anything to fix their party, then the Democrats will effectively be finished. I don't think that they're going to be able to, quote unquote, do their little placebos. I don't think at this point in time, with the censorship that YouTube is doing right now and the censorship that the panic that's set into Silicon Valley, I don't think that that's a good thing with them trying to censorship. It's not like y'all are offering an even playing field. So I think that ultimately the party of the Democrats is ultimately dead. And so, the pendulum is going to swing right. And when that pendulum swings right, we already know what happens whenever you get a theocracy in power. We already know the final outcome. So, yeah, that's what I think is happening right now. It'll be interesting to see what happens going forward after the 2022 midterms, but most certainly after the 2024 elections, I think that maybe they're having a hard time coming to terms with the fact that the that you're probably going to get a theocracy in this country, just simply because of the neglect from the secular side of things. You know, that pendulum will swing right. And so, anyways, I'm getting a phone call. So I'll go ahead and wrap this video up. You people tell me what you think. Like, do the shit YouTube, Twitter tell me to do to get over. And for now, I'm out.